So 5-number summary is a way to show how the data is spread out. A way to show how the data is spread out using 5 numbers. Okay, 2 numbers or 3 numbers you already know how to find, and you've already done that. There's 2 numbers that are new out of the 5. So to start off with, our first number is the minimum. What does minimum mean? The least. Good. Which means that number 5, if I jump to 5, what would 5 represent probably? The maximum. So if minimum is the least, maximum is the most or the greatest. All right, then we have the one in the middle. So we're actually going to jump to number 3 next. That's our middle number. So what word do we use for middle? What did we find in L1? Which one meant middle? Mean, median, mode, or range? Median, good. So 3 is our median. And that's going to be the middle of everything, or middle of the whole set. Step 2 is going to be called the lower quartile. And another one that we call it is Q1. So quartile 1, Q1. That might be another name we use for it. Okay, and the way that we do that one, that's going to be, again, another middle number, but it's going to be the middle of kind of the bottom part. Middle of the bottom. So it's like we're finding median again, but this time we're finding the median only of the lower part, the bottom part. Okay, and then for step 4, instead of having a lower quartile, we're going to have an upper quartile. That's a Q, really bad looking Q. Oh, and then another name that we have for upper quartile is Q, and it's actually Q3. We'll talk about why that is in just a moment when we go down to that number line. And the lower quartile is the middle of the bottom, so upper quartile is going to be middle of the top. You got it. Okay, so those are all the definitions. Those are important to have, so double check that you have those all. If you have your head down right now, especially if you're on your phone, this would be a good time to write these definitions down or take a picture of this on your phone so that you have it for later. All right, so as we talk about this is a spread, so we're showing our data how it's spread out. So we start with the lowest, which is the minimum. And then we go to the highest, which is the maximum. And then the middle, so as we work from minimum to maximum, we work our way towards the middle. This is our median. Okay, that's our middle. And then as we work from minimum to median, we're now looking only at the bottom part. Minimum to median, we're going to find the middle of that. That'll be quartile 1, or the lower quartile. And then in between median and maximum, that middle is going to be the upper quartile. So the reason why we use that word quartile, quart usually means how many. If you think of quarters or quarts in a gallon, how many quarters are in a dollar? 4. So how many little segments do we have here? How many parts? 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this first part is how much percent of the data? 25%. So you have 25% of the data here, 25% here, 25% here, and 25% here. It splits it all up into 25% quarts. So the reason where these Q's come from is this would start at 0. Then we do 1 quartile. We do 1/4. So this is called Q1. Which means as I do another quarter, another quarter ends up at where? Another 25% ends up at the median. So this is quartile 2. But very rarely do we use that word quartile 2 or that kind of Q2 because that is a median. And most people will know that as the median. So Q3 ends up being the upper quartile. And Q4, to finish it, all 4 quarters would end up being the maximum. Again, we wouldn't usually use Q4. We do use Q1 and Q3 because sometimes that's easier or better than using lower quartile and upper quartile. We use lower and upper quartile if we're talking to people who don't do statistics usually, because lower quartile explains a little bit more that it's the beginning, and then upper quartile is the upper, it's in the top. Okay, but if you're talking to a statistician, someone who does data and stats often, you would use Q1 and Q3. That's kind of the more academic term, or like the higher level term. This lower and upper is good, can still use that, but it's more for like people who don't do this regularly. All right, last word is interquartile range, or the IQR. How do we get the word, or the abbreviation IQR? I comes from the inter. Where does Q come from? Quartile. And R comes from range. Remember, range is usually our maximum minus the minimum. That's our overall range. For the interquartile, we're looking at the inner quartiles. So this is going to show us not the whole thing, it's just going to show us the middle 50%. So we're going to do Q3 minus Q1. Or we could call that the upper quartile, UQ, minus lower quartile, LQ. Whichever way you're using in that case. If you're using the words upper quartile and lower quartile, then subtract those, Q3 and Q1. One thing about these is Q3 and Q1 always go together. You would never mix them. So you wouldn't ever call it quartile 3 and lower quartile. If you're calling it quartile 3, you would call it quartile 1. If you're calling it lower quartile, then you'd call it upper quartile. You're not going to mix and match. They kind of go together. All right, how are you guys feeling? Making sense? Okay, ready? All right, we're going to do 2 examples. The first example is going to be a little bit more basic, a little bit more straightforward. The second one gets a little bit more complex based on the amount of numbers that we have. So it says Mustafa collected data to see how many pets each teacher owns, and those are our numbers. Okay, so first thing we have to do in order to find the spread is we want to order them in order. We want to go from least to greatest. So what is my smallest number that we have?
0.
0. And because we're going to use this order, I'm going to cross out that 0 as we go. Okay, what's my next biggest? 1. And then 2, just one of the 2's. How many 3's do we have? 2 3, so 3 3. As we do this, we do want to show those repeats. So 3 3. How many 4's? 3 4, so 4 4 4. And then a 5, a 7, and a 16. If you can, try and fit it all together in one line. That'll make it easier too. Okay, and double check with your counting how many we have. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We have 11. So double check your order has 11 numbers. If it doesn't, then it's going to screw up pretty much everything. All right, so I always like to do it kind of in the same order. I don't go order 1 through 5. That doesn't work for me because that's not how my brain works. I always start with 1 and 5. 1 and 5, 1 represents the minimum. What is our minimum number? What is our least? 0. Okay, this is where I'm going to use blue. So my minimum is 0. What is my maximum? 16. So that goes in the spot number 5. Spot 5 is our maximum. We want this to be in order. All right, now we're going to find our middle, our median. This is the part where I had told you, some people were listening earlier, that we don't want to cross things out. Okay, so this is where we'd want to do like dots, or we could circle or underline would be another way to do it. Okay, so next thing we're going to do is find the median, the middle. So to find the median, we're going high, low, high, low. I noticed a couple of us, when we count, we like figure out that there was 11 and divided by 2. I still like to do high-low, so I like to do 1 dot with a 0, 1 dot with a 16. So that's 1. And then we're going to work our way in. So 1 goes with 7. So I have 2, 2. Now 2 goes with 5. So I have 3 dots and 3 dots. I have to make sure my dots stay equal as I work my way in. 3 goes with 4. This 3 goes with a 4. So I have 5 dots and 5 dots. So my middle number is 4. So my median is 4. Okay, sounds good. All right, next we find our upper and our lower quartile. So upper quartile. Nope, that's not upper. Don't write that. Miss Merrill doesn't know what she's doing. What? Sorry. In between minimum and median is supposed to be lower quartile. My bad. All right, and I'm going to do that with green. So when we look at the lower quartile, I like to start by kind of highlighting the numbers that we're going to be using. We don't use the median. So the 4 we don't end up using, so we're going to start at the 3, and we're going to work our way down. So these are the numbers we're looking for, 3 all the way to 0. And now my goal is to find the middle of those. which some of you can probably do without even marking it. I'm going to mark it still, so I mark 0 and 3. This I like to do my dots on top. That way I'm keeping track. Or you could double dot on the bottom, I guess. Or you could underline or circle. So 0 goes with 3. 1 goes with 3. So my middle number is 2. So my lower quartile is 2. All right, now we got some crazy upper numbers for the upper quartile. Who has 16 pets? Anyone in here have 16 pets? You have 16 pets? Yeah. What do you got? If somebody has 16 pets, maybe what should we maybe assume what kind of pets do they have? What? Farm animals, yeah, probably farm animals. They have horses or cats or dogs, maybe outside. I used to have 16 pets with chickens, or maybe fish. I don't know. So now I'm looking above. I'm not using that 4 because that 4 was used already for that median. So I start at the next 4. So starting at this next 4, I'm going to mark high, low to find my middle. Again, some of you are really good at finding that middle without having to mark it. Or you could just use your fingers to go in. And our middle is 5. All right, so I want to find my middle amount, my IQR, my inner quartile range. Because I know that there are some teachers who have 0 pets, and obviously there's a teacher who has 16 pets. I want to know, where does the middle 50% end up? Okay, so for inner quartile, this time we're going to do our upper quartile minus our lower quartile. That's how we labeled them, was upper and lower. So what is our upper quartile? 5 minus our lower quartile, 2. And 5 minus 2 is 3. So the middle 50% changes by about 3 animals. Isn't too bad. Still kind of a lot of animals for some people. All right, this next one is really similar. If you want to try and work ahead, you can. What's going to be different is when we find those numbers, we have to find the middle numbers, and that's going to be a little bit different when we do that with the medians. All right, so this one says the data below is the result of a test in intermediate algebra. Holy moly, somebody got a 2. What else do you notice about most of the data? Most people passed the test? Yeah, most people got above a 60. Good. What's the most common letter that happened? A, B, C, or D? C. Yeah, it looked like C's happened most. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 C's. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 B's. Yeah, so C was most often. All right, what else do you notice about this data? Is it in order already? Yeah, so that's really nice. We don't have to go back and order it. We don't have to do that amount of energy. It's already ordered for us. This one was not ordered for us. We had to take time to do it. That's something I noticed yesterday on some of your practices. Some of you were finding numbers without ordering them. We can't just go and find the middle. We got to put it in order first. But this one's in order. So we're good to go. We're easy. Find our minimum and our maximum to start with. What is our minimum and our maximum? Somebody got a 2%. Maybe they got called out to the office. Maybe they just had to take a nap. I don't know. Somebody got a 2. And our maximum is 100. All right, next we're going to find our median. So that's actually step 3, is to find our median. So remember, we're not actually going in order 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We can't actually find the lower quartile or quartile 1 until we find the median. We have to know where is that middle. So I'm going to use that red colored pencil. And I'm going to do dots Dots aren't really going to work too much because they're kind of all scrunched together. If you want to do dots, you can. I'm actually going to do underlines. So I'm going to pair 2 with 100. And then we're counting our way in. So go ahead and do that. Work a little bit ahead here. So 15 goes with 98. I'm going to give you about 30 seconds. Work ahead. See if you can find that median. Okay, 58 goes with 95, so that's 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5. Remember, if you get lost halfway through, just count it and you should have the same amount on both sides. So right now I have 6 below and only 5 above, so I need another one above. So that's 6, okay, 7, 7, 8, 8, 9, 9. Uh-oh, what happens in this one? We end up with 2 in the middle. 78 and 81. Again, yesterday I noticed some of you, when you had 2 in the middle, you just wrote the 2 down. Nah. What do we do when there's 2 in the middle? If there's 2 in the middle, we're going to add and divide by 2. Okay. So in this case, when we have 78 and 81 in the middle, we're going to add those together. 78 plus 81, and we're going to divide by 2. Okay. Some of you are really good at just thinking between 78 and 81. If I broke those up and found the middle between those 78 and 81, so I'd go 79 and 80, then what's right between 79 and 80? Some of us, our brains don't think about like math like that. For me, I have to really visualize it. So I'm going to do the division sign first, or actually we can add 78 plus 81. And then I'm going to hit enter, and I'm going to use that A and S button. Remember that A and S button just takes the last answer divided by 2. And we get 79.5. Okay, and that was the number right in between 78 and 81. So now when we do the lower quartile, let's actually call it quartile 1. Quartile 1 and quartile 3 at this point, doesn't matter which one you do first. Because now we know our break. Our break is at this arrow. So since the arrow didn't happen exactly on a number, 78 counts as part of my Q1. So for Q1, I'm going from 2 all the way up to 70, the second 78. So I'm including this 78 in that range because the 79.5 was our median in the middle. So now we're finding the middle of those. So 2 and 78. 15 and 78, 58 and 76, 63 and 74, and we get 2 in the middle again, 72 and 72. So I'm looking for what's right between 72 and 72. Don't overthink it. They're the same number. So what number would be right in between the same number? Itself, 72. If they're the same number, again, we could have added those together in our calculator, but they're the same number, it should just end up being the same. So if I do 72 plus 72, answer divided by 2, we just get 72. All right, upper quartile, or quartile 3. Now quartile 3 is really important. Where are we going to start with? What's our first number of quartile 3? Yeah, 81. 81 has to be where we start. So that's going to change your upper quartile, or quartile 3, depending on where you start. Because the median was 79.5, it's below 81, I'm still going to use 81. So 81 goes with 100. 84 goes with 98. 85 goes with 95. 87 goes with 92. So in the middle, I have 88 and 90. We're really just trying to find what's the middle number, and that one we can maybe visualize what number comes right between 88 and 90. 89. If you didn't know, you could do 88 plus 90 divided by 2. And that would give us the same answer, 89. All right, last part is our quartile, interquartile range. So interquartile range, we're looking at the middle 50%. So I want to know, where does the middle, sometimes as teachers are like, okay, these kids that are below the last 25%, not sure if there's much I can do to help them. Okay, then you think about, okay, the upper 25%, doesn't matter what I do, they're going to do good no matter what. So sometimes as teachers, we really think about this middle 50% to say, okay, this is where I can really make a difference. So I want to know how far of a range is my middle 50%. So I'm going to take my quartile 3 and subtract my quartile 1. I know my middle 50% is getting between a B plus and a C minus. It's pretty good. They're all passing. If my middle 50% is not passing, then that's maybe an issue. All right, so Q3, what do I have for Q3? 89 minus Q1. Okay. Have a good time. Enjoy your weekend. All right, 89 minus 72. 17. 17? Yeah, 17. You're right. Math is hard some days. So smart. All right, that is it for the notes today. Next week we're going to do this, but we're going to do it with a box and whisk.